Hello and welcome to the season 57 recap of games in the Dominion League from the C1 division. Our first match was against wmorrison, and here is the most interesting game from that match. My thoughts looking at this kingdom was that I wanted to play with minion. We have many action sources here: Coin of the Realm, Lackeys, Merchant Camp. I thought I could use those in combination with the minion to play, for example, many merchant camps, mining roads, and some number of tormentors. This is not the only way to play here. You could consider something with Scholar, which was the other thing I considered, but I think minion does what Scholar wants to do better. Doesn't draw as many cards, but the minion has the option of being a silver if you need it to be a silver. And unlike Scholar, minion stacks work very well together. Scholar stacks not so much. Again, there is still yet another option here. That is to draw the conventional way with some combination of Lackeys, Swashbuckler, and Tragic Hero. And we will pay attention to Tragic Hero in this match specifically. There's also Fair and Alliance that'll come into play a bit later. I open with the 2-5. I go for the Coin of the Realm first because I intended to pair that with a Tormentor. If Tormentor is played as the first card on your action phase, you get an Imp. You don't get to attack your opponent. I would like to get as many Imps as possible. The attack from the Tormentor is generally harmless, inconvenient at best, especially in the opening. This is why I chose the coin over the Lackeys. My opponent has the regular 3-4. They go for our Lackeys, and I expected that Lackeys to be paired with a Workshop. Workshop seems excellent here to be able to gain coins, Lackeys, and merchant camps. Instead, they went for a silver, probably to hit 5. They hit the 5 if that was their goal, and they pick up a Tormentor of their own here. I have 4 here. I decide to go for a Workshop. I may be able to get 5 on my next turn. I don't quite get there. Coin of the Realm for my opponent on 2. Here comes the Imp from the Tormentor. Missing 5, but hitting 4 is still okay. I will buy a Fair. This is an event that is not often bought, but here I think it is worth getting because we have 2 stacks of cheap piles in the Coin of the Realm and the Lackeys. Put our blue cube on the Fair, and a Tragic Hero comes out for wmorrison. So this is a statement of intent. They want to play with Tragic Hero, use that for draw. Said, okay, fine, I think minion is better at this stage. 4 and 2 buys, thanks to the Fair, allows me to get some combination of Lackeys and coin. I go for a couple Lackeys. At that point in the game, I was not sure which of the two costs I should get. Should it be 2 Lackeys, 2 coins, 1 of each? Not entirely clear to me, and still not clear to me what I wanted there. Perhaps with the minion plan, the coins are better, but the Lackeys are not totally incompatible with the minion plan. 3 for wmorrison, 4 because the Coin of the Realm went on the mat, is going to be a Fair for them as well. They get their plus buy. Plus buy is also in the mining road and Tragic Hero. Of course, Fair gives you that every single turn guaranteed. I take an Imp, second Imp from this Tormentor. Workshop gains me a merchant camp, and with 3, again the choice is here, Lackeys or Coin of the Realm. I decide here for a coin because I felt I picked up 2 Lackeys last turn. Maybe I would need the actions from the coin to support those Lackeys. An Imp for wmorrison, then calling the Coin of the Realm to continue their turn. Very clever use of the Coin of the Realm there. 5 for wmorrison is not going to be another Tragic Hero. Instead, they take our Workshop. I think they needed to take that Workshop. and another lackeys for them. Imp chains to lackeys. I play this imp here. Didn't quite get what I was looking for. 7 and 2 buys is what I would have preferred here. Instead, I just get the 6 and I start in on the minions. Here comes the tragic hero for wmorrison. Gets them up to 6. Again, probably they would have preferred 7. 6 and 3 buys actually. Lets them go for 3 sets of 2s, a couple of coins, and a lackeys. Merchant camp for me. Workshop is going to gain me yet another merchant camp, and now I do want to, whenever possible, go after the lackeys. I had 5 there, so I decided on the minion instead. Lackeys into workshop for wmorrison gains them a merchant camp. They get up to the 7 mark, gets them a coin of the realm and a swashbuckler now. I thought getting the treasure chest would be quite difficult, and they didn't start with the swashbuckler either. They started with the tragic hero, so I'm not entirely sure how they want to play this, but it does seem like they are going after the traditional draw approach with the lackeys, swashbuckler, and tragic hero, some combination of those. We persist with our minion plan. We don't hit 5 again here, just enough for another lackeys. Imp chains the lackeys for wmorrison. Workshop gains them another lackeys, and they go for another tragic hero. At this point, I started to wonder if I was missing something with tragic hero. I still didn't think so, so I continued along with the minions. We didn't discard here because we are near the end of the deck. We don't want the minions out of the deck. We just take the money, workshop, another lackeys, get another minion, and a merchant camp in this case. The merchant camp ideally would probably play some lackeys, and there's also something I could put down out of my hand before I play the minion. It's not a lot, it's just 1 coin and some actions, but better that than nothing, maybe, for the minion deck. Second imp for wmorrison, calling the coin after. Now the tragic hero comes down. They get up to another tragic hero and another lackeys. Still not worried about the tragic hero, to be honest. So much so that I went for a mining road here because I felt like I had the time to include the plus buy in the deck. Additionally, if I get the mining road down and I buy a coin of the realm, that'll go on the mat straight away. That seems useful. Swashbuckler comes out for wmorrison. No coffer gained from them, but they continue drawing into one of their tragic heroes, and they buy a couple more here. So now they have 4 tragic heroes in the deck. We'll see what that will amount to. Lackeys first. To see what we draw, we drew into our workshop. We take the merchant camp with the workshop, continue drawing, discard once more with the minion, and stop near the end of the deck to buy yet another minion. So I have 4 minions now. However, wmorrison has been able to gain, I think, at least as many things as I have. The extra buy from the tragic hero is the reason for that. And now I think this is the turn where we see quite a bit of draw from wmorrison. First, the imp chains the tragic hero, then an imp chains to some lackeys, then these tragic heroes get liquidated into 3 gold. Not only that, wmorrison takes the last lackeys, and crucially, they are able to draw into those newly gained gold. Look at this turn. This is a tremendous turn. If they want, they could even have a similar turn if they go for 5 tragic heroes here. I don't think that's safe. I think my deck could take 4 coins to empty the piles. Maybe I could also win. Let's count. Mining road is a buy, workshop is a gain, and we have 2 from the fair. So no, they could have taken the 5 tragic heroes here and been completely safe. And tragic hero, I've traditionally struggled with. I always try to preserve the tragic hero. I try to prevent the tragedy from happening. The tragedy being it gets trashed, but probably the tragedy is keeping the tragic hero, honestly. Look at the kind of power they were able to generate here, the kind of money. 25 if they like, and 6 buys. So I think looking back at this, I learned a couple things about Tragic Hero. One is that there are really 2 options on the Tragic Hero card. It's not as obvious as cards from Intrigue like Steward or Nobles, but you can either try to play your Tragic Hero as a draw to 8 card, similar to Scholar or Watchtower. You put cards out of your hand, then you draw with Tragic Hero, put some more cards out of your hand, then draw again with Tragic Hero. That would preserve them in the deck for longer, probably for the duration of the game. Or you could go the other way, which is to inflate your hand size, probably with a Tragic Hero to start with. The first Tragic Hero off a 5-card hand does not get trashed, but subsequent Tragic Heroes will get trashed if you don't play anything out of your hand. So you could play it like that, a little bit like a mega turn, as you see from wmorrison here. They had ordinary turns, or turns comparable to mine, up until this point, just 7 and 2 buys, 5, 6 and 3 buys, this kind of thing. And suddenly, out of nowhere almost, the tragic heroes get liquidated and all their gold shows up in their hand on the same turn, and they have this tremendous turn. So you could look at Tragic Hero as a treasure gainer. You could look at it as a gold in disguise, probably a better gold because you pay less for it and it comes with a plus buy. Sounds like loot a little bit now. Anyways, Tragic Hero lessons aside, let's see what the play is from wmorrison at this point. We calculated that 5 Tragic Heroes is safe for them. They chose something a little bit different. They went for 3 Tragic Heroes and an alliance. I assume the alliance was to give them enough of a points lead so that there was no way I could win the game by emptying piles, which is true. I think a province would have sufficed there, so maybe something like province and coin of the realm, but they probably didn't want to go any lower than 4 coins of the realm and 2 tragic heroes. There is an additional side to this to go in big on the points with the alliance. The decks have no trashing. We didn't talk about this at the beginning, but there is no trashing available. So it is entirely possible that wmorrison is looking at a handful of treasures and estates. We now have to try to catch up on the points because the piles are low. They just demonstrated 6 buys and 25 coin, which is more than enough to empty the tragic heroes and the coins of the realm if they see something even close to that on their next turn. We are, however, unable to catch up on points. The best we can do is buy a province here and pass it back and hope that there are no tragic heroes in wmorrison's hand. However, there are in fact many tragic heroes in wmorrison's hand, each of which gets trashed for coins of the realm, making their pile out even easier. With most of the deck in hand by now, they do finish the game off with the last 2 tragic heroes and take this one. A good lesson in tragic hero for me, and a couple of divergent strategies for you. Thank you for watching, and let's go to the second match. Match 2 was against Markus, and we have a peasant kingdom in front of us. So opening with the peasant seems clear. In fact, with Rush, the event, we can rush the peasant out on the first turn and have a soldier in our first shuffle instead of a peasant. That seems clear. You would do that on the 4 hand, of course, the 4 coin hand. On the other hand, the choice is between Silver and Pixie, and I think Pixie is better than Silver. It'll draw 1 card unlike the Silver, and there's some small chance the boon from the Pixie is very helpful to you. As for the rest of the kingdom, Sculptor seems very good. Sculptor can gain Pixies, can gain Blessed Village, can gain peasants, cardinals, map makers, quarries to bring down the price of cards, remodels if you like. The remodels are shy, doesn't show up in this big display here. So sculptor seems very important. And as for the teacher tokens, I'm keeping my options open. It could be one of two things, I think. Plus cards on the Blessed Village, or plus actions on the map makers to draw. Draw is what is lacking here most critically in this kingdom. Scholar draws, yes, but the kingdom doesn't seem suitable for the type of deck that Scholar would thrive in. Then trashing, we can get thin with Remodel and Crystal Ball. So we can build quite a powerful deck here. I see no issues with that. We just have to try to manage the shuffles as best as possible to see exactly or precisely how the deck will look. All right, Pixie for Markus on the 3, as is for me, and they rush out a peasant. I will also rush out a peasant. So far, we've mirrored on the opening. Now let's see how things diverge from here. Markus gets the Pixie. This boon is not good at all for them, but they see their soldier straight away. Maybe they drew it off the Pixie. Maybe not. Either way, they see it on turn 3. Very good for them. And they rush out another peasant on 4. Makes sense. Peasant is the only terminal in the deck, and you do want some number of disciples moving forward here. All right, this is a great boon for me. So already we have some divergence. I have to have a look at the kingdom to see what it is I want exactly. I go for a remodel. I'll explain the remodel. Not only is it for trashing, but because it's shy, I have the option of discarding it to draw 2 cards from my deck if I want to. It might become helpful, and I'm planning to turn these estates, probably one into a quarry, one into Blessed Village. We'll see how the remodel shows up. And the other coin is discarded for Blessed Village. This was a little bit of fishing to see if I could get a good boon. I didn't. Trash the estate, pass it back to Markus. Goat trashes a copper from them, not an estate, unfortunately. But it means the hand here is 4 coin. They can rush out another peasant if they like. They could buy quarry, remodel. All good options for them, I think. After some time, they decide to get the quarry, which is good, which is a very good card. Here, we get up to 6. I knew that I would get to 5 based on my previous hand with the 2 estates. So the sculptor comes down, and we get up to a fugitive as well. So far, none of our travelers has missed the shuffle. Here's a Markus's fugitive. This Pixie is not trashed, not the best boon, honestly. Down comes the quarry, and now the quarry is particularly nice, not just because the actions cost 2 less, but you can use all the money that you have for rushes and rush cheap actions out. For example, you could rush peasants. If you have 4 with the quarry, you could rush 2 peasants out. Whereas if you had 4 without a quarry, you could only rush 1 peasant out. Excellent purchase, the quarry. Let's see what Markus gets up to with the quarry. They do rush out a peasant, and now they have the option to rush out another peasant, but no, they choose instead to get a Blessed Village. That's a good boon for them, and they get up to their disciple right away. My fugitive does not miss as well. Draws me into a remodel and an estate. That's a good boon, but I'll take it for next turn. I buy another peasant. I want more disciples as well. Pass it back to Markus. So far, things are going well for both of us, I think. This is probably not what Markus wanted to see. Disciple played on soldier. He would much rather gain something from the supply, but now they have a heap of money. And they could rush out a sculptor if they like. They could even think about rushing out the scholar if they want to cycle through the deck. But I think they would prefer the scholar. In fact, they don't. They go for something different. They rush out a peasant, and they buy a Blessed Village, which will let them trash next turn. All right, peasants and soldiers get upgraded. Blessed Village draws me into the sculptor. Well, not draws me into the sculptor, but I had the sculptor, and I use the sculptor here to gain a map maker because I have the boon from the last turn, the extra action, I can do this. I choose the map maker here because I want to draw. I want to find maybe my disciple, maybe my remodel. Find both of them, luckily. So I can pick both of those up. I can even take the goat if I like. And I do actually prefer the goat to the remodel here because the goat is better at trash than the copper. Not entirely true. I could remodel a copper into a pixie. Maybe I should have picked up the remodel now that I'm looking at this a second time. Great boon from the blessed village there. Goat trashes, we rush out a peasant, and we just pass it back. Now, I am going to convert to a teacher here. You will notice that Marcus did not convert to a teacher on their previous turn when they played their soldier twice. And here is probably the biggest theoretical disparity in the whole game. Marcus is saying, by retaining the disciple as a disciple, I think extra gains are the way to go in this game right now. I convert, you'll see me convert soon. I'm saying I think I have enough time to get the teacher down and to get the tokens from the teacher to give me enough advantage. Particularly now that I have this many blessed villages, I am thinking about putting card plus card on the blessed village so that they draw extra. So I'm saying the extra draw is more advantageous to me. The decks are reasonably similar, so we'll see how this turns out, this battle of ideas, as are most games of Dominion. Alright. The downside of taking the teacher is that you have to wait a couple turns before you see the benefit. One turn it has to go on the mat, and then the second turn, then you call it, then you get the benefits. Whereas the disciple, if you have it, and you manage to collide it with other actions, you get the benefit straight away. You don't have to wait that turn. I think there's enough time in the game for me to benefit from the teacher, so that is why I converted there. This is a good boon for Marcus as well. I didn't want them to get this one. I felt a tiny bit ahead here, but this boon probably helps them equalize, if not surpass me, by cycling them through most of the deck, and they do get to see their disciple again. Forces me down to 3 cards by playing many soldiers. Here's the quarry. So now they have the option to rush peasant, rush whatever they like. Probably that is what they'll end up doing. I think here's where they do, I think, rush peasant and they rush sculptor. So they are ahead on the amount of travelers they have, the amount of peasants and things that peasants upgrade into. I have the teacher as compensation and a remodel. I've been using my remodel to trash. So I'm a little bit thinner because of that remodel. That's why I didn't want them to see that boon. The copper would slow them down, but they were able to cycle past it because of that boon. Okay, so rush peasant, rush sculptor. Sculptor gains blessed village. Not a great boon for them. Probably not the one they wanted to see, given that they are not as thin as I am. I use the remodel to draw 2 cards because of Shy. Mapmaker will find me my teacher. Sculptor is going to gain me another blessed village. I'll take that Will-O-Wisp. Doesn't seem harmful. And we get to play a couple soldiers here. I don't have a quarry yet. I really would have liked to pick up a quarry by now, but I think the blessed village in this turn, for example, was much more important to gain that, and the turn before with the map maker. And now that I have the teacher token down, I really want to knock down as many of these blessed villages as possible. So I am going to rush out a sculptor here just to gain another blessed village and see how many of those I could take. I think I have 5 of them already. If Marcus lets me get any more, I'll be happy. I don't think they will. They gain 1 of the disciple here, and I imagine they will gain 1 more just to mitigate the amount of benefit I can gain from the blessed village. Couple disciples come down here for them. Look at what is happening. Gains them a village, gains them a sculptor, and they are still drawing through the deck. So now I'm starting to get a little bit worried because it looks like Marcus's decision to keep the disciples is justified. This seemed like a strong turn. The quarry comes down. They could rush out another peasant if they like. or a pixie if they like. They do choose to rush out the peasant. Here they did leave 5 cards on top of the deck. I'm not entirely sure how bad those cards are. I can't imagine it being that bad. And even the pixie draws a little bit to try to offset this potentially bad shuffle. Now they convert to the teacher. So they wanted to always have a disciple in the deck, it seems. Or maybe now that they have 5 blessed villages or 2 sculptors, now they feel, okay, I have a clear target for my teacher tokens. Let me get one now. All right, so my teacher comes out before theirs, and I do put the plus card on the blessed villages. I have 5 of them. This should draw me through all of my deck, actually. I am especially confident because of these fugitives. Now, what should I do here? I don't have any disciples now. Next turn I will. The best thing I think for me to do at this point is to use the sculptors to gain something. I remodel a copper into a peasant. I want to gain as many disciples as I can. Now, what to gain with the sculptors is the question. Now I take my quarry, now that there are no more blessed villages, and I take a cardinal. The cardinal is because I was worried about their deck, Markus's deck. They have 2 disciples, I believe, or 3 disciples and a teacher, and that didn't sit very well with me. So in an attempt to reduce the power of their deck, I picked up a cardinal and tried to go exile one of their disciples, or maybe a blessed village, because it seems like that is the pile they want to target with their teacher token. Luckily, I do exile one of their disciples, and there's no way that's coming back into the game. Very happy about that, but also very lucky to have that happen. However, I felt like I had to take that chance. I felt like their deck was too strong, and I needed to do something to slow it down. Okay, I have quite a few options here, and I don't end up figuring out what is the best thing to do here. I try to rush out a remodel here. First, I rush out a peasant, of course. And I think I also try to rush out a remodel here, because I thought that the map makers still costed 4, but they don't, because I've played my quarry. I wanted to remodel the map maker into a gold so that I could start remodeling gold into province on my next turn, but that is not the case because the quarry sends down the cost. All I've done effectively here is picked up a second remodel, and I remodel the map maker into another remodel because I don't need the draw anymore. I have that covered with the blessed villages. Okay, so my deck now has draw, and it has many gains through the remodels and the sculptors. Markus needs the turn to set up. Let's see if they find their teacher first of all. They don't. They don't. They actually have quite a bad turn, and they go for an attempted exile on me. They do exile a sculptor, completely fine with that, as long as it's not my blessed village or my disciples. I have 2 of them now, so does Markus. But the lack of draw hurt them here. No teacher token, so I get 1 more turn to play before their deck becomes exponentially better. We get to see now what they do here, and with so many remodels, it is possible for me to province here. They get a map maker instead, and not instead, but they get a map maker on that turn. Okay, so the blessed villages, I lead with these as best as possible, as often as possible, because I would rather play the disciple on cards that are not in the supply, like sculptor, for example. This will also bring my sculptor that is in exile out of exile. I think about gaining another cardinal there, but I decided not to because I have 2 disciples now, they have 2 disciples, plus I have my teacher token currently on the blessed villages, and my teacher will come back on the mat here. So I feel I don't need to slow them down anymore. I've slowed them down enough. So we gain map maker as quarry instead, sorry. And now we are looking probably for the other sculptor to put the disciple on that. But we don't, I choose to do it on the pixie instead. That's probably wrong. I should have done it on the sculptor. Sculptor is very, very good here. Remodel, I remodel into gold. Map maker will find me that gold so that I could remodel it into a province. This turn in particular, I chose to gain another quarry because I knew I would be a little short on villages because of the rushed peasants from last turn. So I am going to liquidate all of the villagers here. Sculptor here will also gain. This is between quarry and silver for me because I want the villager. Choose the silver instead. Remodel a gold into a province. I maybe should have played 2 soldiers here, but I wanted to try to attack one more time with the cardinal. We do exile our map maker, not great because Marcus can easily regain that with their sculptor. But we get to double province here. In fact, I do something rather stupid here. I was supposed to rush a peasant to keep the buy. I thought I had an extra buy, but instead I rush a pixie, and then my turn ends, and I didn't want to ask for the undo on that, so I just run away with my tail between my legs and pass it back to Marcus. Disciple on Blessed Village, not what they want to see. Disciple on Soldier. Now the teacher comes down, but nothing else. Nothing else. No draw, no map makers, no sculptors, nothing. 5, not even enough for a province. And despite me messing up last turn, I'm well ahead here, and I think I should be able to end the game on this turn. Pixies are low, map makers are low, and that's all I need to do to end the game. And I have disciples on sculptors, disciples on map makers. And here, just to make my life easier, I put plus action on the map maker to alleviate some of the action problems I had on the last turn. So we have a good enough hand, and the pileout is fairly trivial. At this point, I was concerned about the disciple in the middle there, but it turns out a little bit of extra trashing and I had enough time to make good use of the teacher tokens as I initially estimated. So this game ends with a victory for us. We pile out and then do some more. I don't really know why. And we take that game. So you tell me, was it right to convert to the teacher, or was it right to keep the disciples? Did Marcus just get unlucky? Was their decision justified? Let's move on to the third game, third match. Match 3 was against a Burning Skull. In this kingdom, the critical thing to notice is that we are limited by how much actions we have. We only have 1 extra action, which will come from innovation. You can gain a horse mid-turn with either scrap or slay and get the action like that, or you could perhaps stonemason something expensive into an apprentice and get the extra action like that. That severely limits us in what we can do. You might think about doing something with liveries or witches' huts or gladiators even, but you do have to account for the lack of plus actions here. For me, I saw abundance and I wanted to do something with abundance here, especially because there are cheap actions. Slay and stonemason are cheap, so you'll get a lot of benefit from abundance. And not only that, there are ways to gain actions mid-turn. So you can gain actions without having to spend any coin up front. Again, scrap and slay can do that. We can get thin through a combination of scrap and apprentice. Stonemason maybe, but probably scrap and apprentice will suffice for the trashing, and then we'll see what we can do with the abundances. The tireless trait is on Masterpiece, which does nothing. On the opening, it is going to be a scrap for me to get rid of the estates, get some horses in, and abundance as well. Abundance is like a gold, remember, it's kind of like loot, 3 coins on a buy, and I want the 3 coins to buy innovation as soon as possible. If things go well, I will be able to buy innovation on my first shuffle. Burning Skull agrees with me on the opening, at least. they go for a scrap on 3, and they also pair that with an abundance. I should mention that Burning Skull has a YouTube channel, and he has posted his side of this game on his YouTube channel. Please go look at it. Burning Skull is a good player and makes good content. Now here, you might be tempted to buy the sleigh and then buy another scrap. But I am not going to do that because I want to save the abundance for the next turn so that I might be able to buy innovation. So I buy nothing. I did no action, no treasure because I only had 2 coin. Skull, however, does something a little bit different. They do opt to trigger the abundance on this turn by picking up a sleigh, I believe, and another scrap. Now, I do see my scrap with one of the estates, which is good news for me. It means that the only 2 cards left in the deck are coppers, which means I can draw comfortably here and get a horse, have no terminal collision, get up to 6, and we get the innovation that we wanted to get. Innovation early is going to be very, very good for us. For example, here, now I don't have to save the abundance because I have the expensive thing already, the innovation. I could, if I want, to try to get an apprentice on my next hand. The scrap doesn't have an estate in the next hand, so I do have to think about if I want to save the money for next turn, if I want to use it here. But I think because of the innovation, it is worth buying a sleigh here. I get the 2 horses in the deck straight away, and I buy a second abundance. We're going to try to build heavy on the abundances. Let's see how far we can get. I expect Skull to do something similar. They go ahead, they scrap an estate for a horse. They pick up a second abundance as well. I trash a copper with the scrap, not great, and I pick up another sleigh. The second sleigh is not bad at all. Not only do I get the horses before they shuffle because of innovation, but 2 sleighs in hand can let you do some tricks. Here, Skull makes the play to save the abundance. They do not buy another sleigh. They just pick up a silver. I play my sleigh. That lets me gain 2 horses. Innovation asks me, would you like to play the horse? Yes, I would like to play the horse. So we continue our turn. Sleigh is not terminal with innovation around. Scrap finds an estate. I will turn the estate into at least a horse. The question is what to do with the other option. I choose to draw here to try to fish for a little bit more money. Abundance, while it has a lot of money on it, is not so easy to make stonemason overpays with it, because you need, for example, if you want to overpay for apprentices, you need 7 coins up front without the abundances is what I mean. Then you'll get the bonuses from the abundance. So here, not able to buy an apprentice. In fact, I drew a horse dead, which is sad. So what I end up doing instead is buying a sleigh. That'll trigger the abundances. Now I have a heap of money. I will go ahead and stonemason to gain 2 apprentices. Skull continues trashing estates as well with their scrap. They pick up a silver, and abundance comes down, and they get to their innovation finally. This is the trick with the 2 sleighs. The first horse, this first sleigh was played. One of the horses was played because of innovation, and the second horse was put into my hand because of the second sleigh there. Sleigh collision is not a bad thing in this kingdom. Scrap and sleigh collide. I much rather have the horses, so we will play the sleigh. 6 with 2 abundances. Could be a gold, could be an apprentice, and then I can overpay for more apprentices. I chose instead to pick up my 3rd abundance and another scrap. At this point, I am trying to put as many abundances in play as possible. My plan to do that is with apprentice. Stonemason will gain me apprentices easily, and I can use the apprentice to trash an apprentice to draw many cards. That's my plan from here. I'll get some trash in here and there, but with the kind of draw apprentice provides, I don't need to have a very thin deck. We'll see how it works out. Skull gets rid of their last estate, and they trash another copper. Because they had the second scrap earlier, they are a little bit thinner than me at this point. As I said, I'm not too fussed about that. Scrap will gain me a horse, which will get played straight away because of the innovation. Apprentice will trash another apprentice. Draw deep into the deck. Still, I do not find any abundances. This is why you trash, right? Play collision lets me put a horse into my hand. I play on draw deeper into the deck, and I find 2 of my 3 abundances. Not bad. Not bad. 6 copper. And I choose here not to trigger the abundances. I want to keep them in play, and I just buy another abundance. Neat interaction with abundance on itself. Buying abundance does not trigger the ones you have in play, so you could keep them there whenever you want to trigger them. Skull now trashes a bit more with the apprentice and the scrap. They get up to 6 and an abundance. We'll see what they go for from here. Very soon you'll see the divergence in our paths. So far it looks a little similar, except that I have a bit more abundances. I have 4 abundances to Skull's 2. And while looking at his video, I realized his thought process here. So he bought the gold, he explained in his video. Stonemason could trash the gold to gain 2 5s. 2 apprentices is not bad of the gold, and it keeps the abundance in play just like I did. Alright, Slay allows me to innovate a horse, lets me draw further into the deck. I thin a little bit here with this apprentice, up to 10 because of the abundances in play, and that allows me to stonemason for a couple more apprentices, and I can even buy another apprentice here. Maybe I should be doing that, but instead I go for my 5th abundant. Skull here now has quite a big turn, and here's where I get a bit concerned. Instead of using the stonemason to trash the gold, they use the apprentice to trash the gold. That lets them see their entire deck, and now they can make well-informed decisions about what they want to do from here. And you'll see that, to my surprise, actually, I wasn't paying that much attention, they are actually quite a bit thinner than I am. They only have 3 copper, they have no estates. 2 silver, 3 copper left, 10 and 2 buys for them. When I saw this deck, I said, perhaps I've been building this the wrong way. Perhaps I should have been spending more time on trashing the coppers out and then looking to pile up on the abundances. In the last season of the league, or maybe 2 seasons before, we had a good showing for abundance. We had the deck under control, we had it thin, and then we started to put abundances in the deck and then started to pay rich dividends. I'm not quite doing that here. I'm keeping the coppers around because I'm saying, okay, I don't care because apprentice will draw everything anyway. It does hurt consistency, but I think if I have a very big turn, that'll compensate for any stall turns I may have. Here's where the divergence occurs. Burning Skull goes for a masterpiece and gains 5 silvers with the masterpiece. Masterpiece was not on my radar at all. I didn't want any masterpieces. I didn't want to have anything to do with masterpieces. I just wanted the abundances. I said, all right, we'll see how this works out from here. They have the thinner deck, more consistent deck, but they are opting for conventional treasure in the form of silver. I put down 5 abundances on that turn, and then I bought a 6th one. At this point, again from Skull's video, he was thinking maybe there might be a way for him to pile out. At this point, I didn't think it was possible. I mean, obviously I didn't think so, otherwise I would not have bought the abundance. And I think at this point, my intuition, my estimation was right. I don't think Skull had enough to pile out here, though it's not entirely clear to me. I didn't check it carefully whether there was a pile out here for them. 2 apprentices are left. Those can be gained by stonemason. Stonemason itself can be used to gain 2 abundances, for example. However, they said, okay, maybe there's no pile out here, and they stopped. Notice at the start of this turn too, they trashed an abundance, so they only have the 1 abundance. Again, if the masterpiece wasn't enough proof, them trashing an abundance is confirmation that they don't really care that much about the abundances. I do. So we'll see what they end up going for here. It's a stonemason to gain a couple scraps, which I found interesting, and they score. They score with a province. And now I have to think very carefully. Here the turns start to get very long because I need to, both of us actually need to consider several lines, most of them involving stonemason. Here, for example, can I pile out and win? Pile out, I was looking at the islands specifically because that would give me a points lead and empty a pile. Maybe I could do stonemason for apprentices, stonemason for stonemasons, and then stonemason for islands, or some combination of abundance, stonemason, island, apprentice, maybe even scrap. Scraps are at 4. However, I don't have a stonemason in my deck currently. I think this is not possible. I spent quite a bit of time here trying to figure out if there was a way for me to win. If you see it, let me know, because I need to learn how to use stonemason. But I still don't think there was a way for me to win here. What I end up doing instead is taking more apprentices because I need to draw all of these abundances one more time. And I buy a province and a duchy. Could be province, duchy, estate, but I felt the estate was unnecessary at this point. I thought province and duchy was enough of a lead, 3 points lead, to prevent Skull from piling out and winning. Piles are low. They're just 2 abundances, 5 stonemasons, 4 scraps, 6 slays, but I saw their deck last turn. It was what, just 11 or something? And an abundance. And I thought, alright, that's not enough. You can't pile out with that. However, I was wrong. I was very wrong because, and again, you'll see this if you watch Skull's video, you'll see what he has in hand, and he has a way to at least tie the game from here. I wouldn't be happy with that because I felt like I had more of the important cards, the abundances, and because of how the deck was organized, they actually had a win on this turn because I emptied the apprentices. So the precise play for me on my previous turn was to buy 1 apprentice and maybe 2 provinces rather than using the stonemason to overpay for the 2nd apprentice. The line for Skull here, if you're interested, is to scrap twice, draw through the deck. They have a stonemason and an apprentice in hand. They could stonemason, trash the apprentice, gain the abundances, slay would put one of the abundances in hand, and then they could pile out on stonemasons and still have enough for a duchy and an estate. However, Skull does not find that line. They don't find that line and eventually conclude that they cannot pile out. So instead they decide to score. The apprentice gets trashed for a couple islands. I found that a little strange because it makes the pile out for me easier on that on the island pile, and they pick up a province. They got the islands to get as much points as possible, but that is a double-edged play. Right, so Skull misses the win, but look at my hand. A stonemason, 3 abundances, and a duchy. Not dead, not entirely dead. I can scrap on, I can stonemason an abundance for a scrap and an island, for example, and I can use innovation to play the scrap to draw one card. Maybe that card is an apprentice. I would trash the duchy, probably draw through the deck from there. However, I decide against it because one, the odds are very low of me finding an apprentice at the top of the deck. I think I have 5 or 6 of them. So what, 5 and 19, 6 and 19, those aren't great odds. And it would either involve me trashing an abundance or a duchy. Two valuable resources for me at the end of the game here. And I did not want to part with them. So instead, I chose to not play the stonemason and just put down the 3 abundances. Again, I felt more comfortable doing this rather than trying to play on because I saw that Skull's deck was running out of gas. They were trashing silvers with apprentices and scrap, and they would not have as much money as they had last turn. So even if they were to score some points, I felt like with the 6 abundances, I could still stay in the game here. Put the 3 abundances down, I buy a copper just for a little bit of extra money because I will be able to find that back if I see the apprentices, of course. I do see them, and fortunately for me, Skull is only able to get a duchy. So they have a healthy 10-point lead, but I think I can easily overhaul that with my abundances by targeting the island pile. First step is to draw. Trash the horses because they give me more draw rather than playing them. I see 3 slaves in my hand. One of the slaves will be played. Horse gets played from innovation. The other horse will go directly into my hand if I want. I don't have to take it. In fact, I don't take it because I'm up to the end of the deck here. These are all the important pieces. There's just a horse in the discard. And there's a win here. Actually, quite an easy win, or I should say there are several lines that win. You could take your pick, pause the video if you like. The one that I ended up going for is using the stonemason to gain the abundances. But stonemason, trash the apprentice, gain the abundances, and they go straight to my hand because of the slays. Slays are a very good card, not just because of the horses. And then I end up with 8 abundances, and that surely has to be enough to pile out stonemasons and islands for the win. And sure enough, it is. We take that game, very intense end game. I miscalculated, but it worked out for me, and I'm very happy to win yet another league game with abundance. Seems like I'm starting to favor that card. Let's move on to the 4th match. Match 4 was against Apostolosoruler. This kingdom looks like you can get vineyards to be worth many, many points, more than provinces actually. Why do I think that? We have plus buy in forager souk, modify can gain, camel train can gain, workshop can gain. Not only that, but you have plus actions in capital city so that you can play multiple workshops or get multiple gains from modifies, camel trains, multiple buys from souks, and there's ample draw in the smithies. Wisps and imp may draw as well. So it looks like we want to build towards vineyards. How do we start off? Apple, as I'll say from now. I know, very British of me to change the name of someone to something that's convenient for me to say, but they open with an exorcist, which makes sense. They want to trash the estates early. Wisps will likely draw in the early game. I also would like to focus on trashing. 3 is going to be a forager. If I had their opening 4-3, I would have gone for an exorcist and a city gate. I don't, so I will go for something a little bit different here. I start with the workshop, so does Apo, and I get my exorcist instead of the forager. I'll get the forager later. Okay, Apo makes some interesting plays here on turn 3, and I didn't agree with it as early as turn 3, they workshop for a smithy and then they buy a second workshop. I know advance is on the kingdom, in the kingdom, but still that seemed a bit aggressive. So I play it a little more conservatively. Workshop will gain me a forager to get the deck thinner faster. And I trash out an estate for a wisp. Apple goes ahead and buys our faithful hound. They get a wisp as well. I get my city gate finally. That should help me see my workshop more often. Another smithy and another hound. Look at how many terminals Apple has in their deck. 2 smithies, 2 hounds, 2 workshops. The only thing non-terminal is wisp. Anyways, I don't agree, so I continue doing what I think is best. 3 here could be another forager for me. I instead choose to get a faithful hound. The purpose of the faithful hound is that so that I can advance it into maybe a capital city, maybe a souk. That would help me trash cards from my hand as well. We'll see where the hound turns up. Apple gets another hound and they advance one of their hounds in hand to a capital city. Is that alright? I put the estate back here because the exorcist is in the last 3 cards and I advance the wisp. Maybe I shouldn't be advancing the wisp because it is good right now. Maybe I should advance it later, but I want the capital city now. Capital city is a great village. It'll cycle through 3 cards. In short, I'll see my exorcist, my forager, and my workshop more often. Dead drawn smithy, but not that bad because you're still able to get a capital city by advancing our workshop. I was surprised to see them advance the workshop. I thought they wanted to keep the workshops around so that they could focus more heavily on the vineyard plan, but no, they decided to change that into a capital city. Take out another wisp. I get a second forager. 2 is going to be an easy faithful hound. Again, those easily get advanced into capital cities or souks. Here I go for the advance on the capital city, and then I still have 3 left over to buy something. It is going to be another faithful hound. You could discard the faithful hounds to the capital cities as well so that they come back into your hand on the next turn. I don't think that is very important to do. I think it's much more important to either use them for draw or to advance them into more expensive cards. Unless you have a heap of them like Apo does. And here, their deck actually comes together. The deck comes together and they gain a forager finally. They've been playing so far with just the exorcist for trashing. And only now have they picked up a forager, but it seems like their deck is doing better than mine. I was confused by this, but after the game, I maybe figured out why that was the case. Or maybe during the game, I figured out why that was the case. The reason is because of the smithies. They gained the 2 smithies early, and they played one of them on the early shuffles, and in this last turn, you saw both of them come out, which allowed them to draw through the deck. Remember, Capital City is very good at finding you your terminals. It gives you a search space of 3 cards if you want. So it is reasonably likely that a capital city will connect with a smithy. Capital city will connect with a smithy. Having seen that turn, I decide to gain a smithy myself, as well as another capital city. And Apple continues going here. Even without the city gate, they are able to see both the smithies, draw all the way up until the end of the deck, and even gain a workshop and play that workshop on the same turn. They are doing very, very well. I was initially skeptical, but it seems like they understand how to play this kingdom better than I do. Another capital city for them. And they are in a very, very good position here because of the amount of draw that they have. And plus actions, they have more capital cities than I do. They could start looping workshops if they like. We'll see what they get up to. I get to the end of my deck as well, thanks in part to the smithy. Forager is going to help keep me very clean, get me up to 5. I could capital city and then advance this faithful hound into another capital city if I like, but I don't like. Instead, I choose a souk. Seems dubious, probably is, after thinking about it after the game. The reason I went for the souk is because one, I didn't want to lower the capital cities. I thought Apple would have an easy pilot if I did, because they are able to loop workshops. Again, maybe that is overestimating the capacity of their deck. The second reason I went for the Souk is because it would allow my capital cities to draw more cards if I see it early. So if I use the capital city, discard down so that the Souk gets more money, then subsequent capital cities will just draw cards for me. 2 cards, to be specific. Okay, we'll see how the Souk works out. Apple finds everything again, which is not surprising. They have quite a few capital cities. I mean, they do have more stop cards than I do, but they also have more action cards than I do, as I am soon about to find out. Workshop down the potion, definitely a reasonable time to think about potion. They gain the potion, draw it up, and they still have another workshop gain, which is for Smithy. Forager continues to trash. 7 on a potion, Vineyard and what? Vineyard and Capital City. Smithy gets trashed into an imp, and their vineyard is worth 6 points, just as much as a province. And will be worth more than a province very, very shortly. Here I do see the Souk early, but I don't see other capital cities early, so I had to draw with the Smithy first. Now I see a capital city, so the Souk could come down now. Heap of money, just use it to draw with the capital cities. Because I also would like to loop workshops in the same way they did, but it seems like I cannot because I would run out of actions to do that. I only have 4 capital cities, so looping workshops is not that easy for me. We do get our potion ourselves, but our vineyard is only worth 4 points. Only worth 4 points, and I have 6. Could take the capital city, but that looks like me saying, okay, lose now on the next turn. It's not really clear to me what to get. I go for the capital city anyway, because I think the only way that I win this game is if somehow Apple stalls, because they do have more stop cards in their deck. Maybe their hand is a bunch of coppers and a bunch of faithful hearts. Maybe on the 1% chance. So that means I might be able to effect a pile out on my next turn and win. So I make the plays necessary to try to do that. I empty the capital city on this turn, and I buy a couple of camel trains. Those will help me empty piles. Maybe could have been a couple of workshops instead, honestly, but they effectively do the same thing. Just the exiled cards from the camel train don't show up in the deck, so I could exile any amount of foragers and not have them be bad cards in the deck. Not a great opening hand for me, but it is not going to matter because Apple finds a very nice way to win here, which is to pile out the workshops. They draw up until the end of the deck, and then workshop will gain workshop. They'll draw that workshop, play it again, and then have enough money to buy, I believe, the last 2 workshops. Put this game up because it was instructive. We went about building this deck in 2 different ways. I valued trashing more than Apo did. Apo just went hard for the actions and used the advance to gain them the capital cities. Critically, I missed the effect of Smithy in this kingdom, and that led me to lose. The final match was against Sirusc, and I could have shown you many games from this match. The first game was a brilliant abundance board, but you already saw enough of me winning with abundance. There was also a board similar to the one we showcased against Markus with the rushing peasants. This is the last game from the match against Sirusc in our final league game. We have not a lot happening on this kingdom. There are no plus actions, so pick your terminal. You have Enlarge, Guildmaster, Druid, Steward. Those are your options. Grand markets seem important, and it seems you can trash quickly with Steward, so it seemed like a routine game where you would use Steward to trash, maybe Market Square to react to gain a couple gold, buy grand markets, and go from there. I don't think War Chest would be particularly helpful. However, there are 3 things on the bottom there which do give the kingdom a bit more variety. Reckless is on Steward. So if you buy the steward, you play it twice, and then it goes back to the supply. You don't get to keep your steward. You would like to trash more than twice with it. Island Folk is a brilliant ally. Gives you an extra turn if you can collect enough favors. Guildmaster is the only way to collect favors here, but extra turns are very strong in Dominion in general. And finally, there's Avoid, which can give you some ideas throughout the game, on the opening especially. So, for example, if I had 3-4, I would have opened with Steward, double Avoid, avoided as much coppers as possible, so that my steward would show up with all 3 estates, and I could trash all of them on the first play of the steward. Then I could think about maybe getting another steward, market square, something like that. However, I have 4-3. Little bit different. It means I will only be able to avoid once. Druid, we saw the boons there. The wisps are nice, but wisps don't draw grand market, so I don't think the druid is worth it at all. I can only avoid once, is what I was saying. I think that is still the thing to do here. You do open with the steward, of course. It trashes you very quickly. Sirusc agrees with me. They go for the steward. I'm not sure if they had 3 or 4 on turn 1. But they do pick up the steward after some thought, and where I avoid to try to get the steward to collide with as many estates as possible. You see here I get the coppers out of the deck so that the steward has a better chance of finding estates instead of discarding the estates, so that you would get potentially more money. Sirusc opts for a market square. Sirusc opts for a market square instead. I said, okay, maybe it works out for them, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the steward bottom decks, the avoid prevents that from happening as well. They go ahead, they take the market square. I will want a market square eventually, and I will get one. Here, at least one estate shows up, so the worst possible hand I could have is what you see in front of you. 3, I can buy a market square. So not a great double trash off the steward, but not the best. Let's see how it works out for Sirusc. Market square first, and no steward, but they buy a second one because they know the one that they play on this turn probably will go back to the supply. There goes my first market square, and here's the steward for Sirusc. Their trash was identical to my trash, 3 coppers and an estate. I buy back the steward here, and somehow now I have lost my first player advantage. Sirusc is going to draw once with his steward, gets them into the market square maybe, and then they trash once. They buy another steward to replace the one that was reckless. I am going to do something similar, draw, hoping to connect the 2 estates. I don't, I only connect the 1. So far, our stewards have trashed the exact same things, also gain gold, just that now Sirusc is the half a turn ahead. Even though they started as second player, by now it's as though they have the first player advantage. Something I need to think about and see how that happened. I'm not sure if I could have prevented that or not. Anyways, steward, they trashed 2 coppers here. They really meant to trash an estate and a copper, of course. That would leave them with 5, and now there's an interesting choice of what do you get on 5 here. We already ruled out war chest. There aren't great targets on the board for the war chest, so really it is between enlarge, guildmaster, maybe another market square. Enlarge is the choice for Sirusc, and I have to think here now, because I am presented with the same choice. Would I like an enlarge, or would I like a guildmaster? Effectively, what the options are: would you like the extra gain per turn, or would you like an extra turn? I decide that the extra turn is worth it, is better than the extra gain from the enlarge, so I pick up the Guildmaster. If I have an extra turn, maybe I can gain more things than the enlarge would allow me to gain. I said, okay, so I thought enlarge for Sirusc was going to enlarge golds into grand markets, and then the golds would get replaced by the market square that they would likely have in hand. However, Sirusc opts for a different strategy at this point. They turn their gold into province. They want to rush out the game on the province pile. And I said, okay, fine, I see what you want to do. I don't think it's going to work because I have a stack of castles front and center in this kingdom. I think building is going to be worth it purely because of the extra points available in the castles. Another province goes down, another gold gets enlarged into a province. And Sirusc picks up another market square. I'm able to get my second grand market here, another market square, and I have enough favors for the island folk so that I can gain an extra turn. You need 5 for that. However, I do buy a copper here just for an extra favor. Maybe I would need it later in 3 or 4 turns from now. I would be 1 favor short, 1 buy short or something, and then, excuse me, I would rue this opportunity where I had the ability to buy a copper and I didn't. The reason why I felt okay buying 1 copper here is because a void, which I will buy soon, avoids 3 cards from your shuffle. So I have 2 copper now. Adding the third one isn't any worse in terms of a void. It does turn out to be a little bit worse. You'll see why shortly, but this is why, because of the third copper, I top deck a copper here. So later in the game, I saw that it was not necessary to buy that copper, but I really cannot see 3 to 4 turns ahead to know whether or not the extra favor would have been important. All right, my extra turn gets me a couple more grand markets and a couple more favors. Let's see what Sirusc gets up to here. Deck is a little bit bigger because of the provinces, and here they don't end up enlarging gold into province. Instead, it's a province into a province, but they are able to gain 2 gold. I gain a couple more grand markets and take another turn of the island folk, which will get me a couple more grand markets, and I am able to avoid, once again, the 3 coppers go into the discard. We are doing well with the island folk. The single guildmaster is able to get us enough favors so that every turn we can get an island folk extra turn. With just 2 grand markets left here, I feel very comfortable now. Sirusc only has 12 points. I have 8 grand markets. I think I can even catch up on the provinces at this point. However, I did not understand how much gold they had in their deck. They had 3 gold, so they were able to enlarge our gold into a province and buy another gold. So they are 24 points up. 3 provinces left in this stack. I think I have to pull the trigger now, because if they get any more provinces, it'll be very difficult for me to win this game, if not impossible. So we empty the grand markets. Avoid, of course. In fact, we avoid multiple times here because I am going to start on the castles now, and I don't want the castles in the deck. Couple castles gets me a few points, and I'm able to avoid up to 3 times here, which means up to 9 cards can be taken out of the deck. I only need 4 or 5 of them to be out of the deck. Here's that third copper again showing up, unfortunately. And I'm actually able to draw enough money to pile out the game on the provinces and a duchy to win. I was a bit laser focused on the castles, but I stopped and realized, hold on, if I count properly, I can win right here on provinces and duchies. So that is how this game ends. Turns out the extra turn was the way to go here. And that brings us to the end of season 57 in the C division of the Dominion League. Stick around for the table of results. Here are the results so far for season 57 in the C1 division. While the table is incomplete, our position is assured in either third or fourth place. We will not demote, guaranteed, but we also won't promote. I'll take that for now. Maybe next season will be better. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.